Tom went into the Air Force Reserve, and he took the intelligence test, and he got the highest grade on the intelligence test that was ever achieved on that test. However, he decided that he didn't want to stay in the service, and he acted like he was psycho or something and got a discharge. When he came back, he was very straight. I mean, he was married at that time to Jill, his first wife. They seemed to be very happy. He did not wear strange clothes. He did not talk about strange things. When he was divorced from Jill, his life changed significantly. He wanted to do a magazine, and I was amazed. In a very short time, he was publishing a magazine called Orpheus. And it was unusual. It was different than what I'm used to seeing. He wanted to have a headquarters, and our grandmother had died, and she left this old house that we were going to tear down. And Tom said, "Don't tear it down, I'll rent it." I said, "Oh my God, Tom, that's the best deal I ever had." And he had an entire room of the house, the largest bedroom, filled with shelves. And on these shelves, he had copies of all the other magazines and newspapers. And he was laughing. He said that they would send it to him free because it was the underground press library, and they sent these copies free. And he had the largest collection of underground material that in the United States. In this house, a group of groupies, I call them groupies, relatively good-looking young women dressed in hippie clothes, and young men who wouldn't shave and wouldn't comb their hair. They lived there, and they had no beds. They just had pads on the floor. They lived on nothing. Even at this time, the FBI or the government was interested in what he was doing. And every once in a while, a new person would come to his groupie, his group of groupies, and offer to help. And it usually was somebody that looked like he came from a Eastern college, who had been from an Eastern college, who had dressed in hippie clothes. And he sensed who these plants were. They would be so enthusiastic to work and help and ingratiate themselves to become part of this little groupie counterculture, and he would deliberately overwork them and to the point where they would quit, and then the FBI would send another one in. And he used to tell me the story, and I would laugh about it. In fact, I asked him one time, I said, "Tom, why is an intelligent young man like you, who has all the ability to be an outstanding businessman or a professional man like your father, playing these hippie games?" And he said, "John, one time I was in an incident, and one of my friends was beaten up by the police, and I made a vow that I was going to do something to prevent these things from happening again." They started to get more groupies moving in, and finally they decided to abandon the house, the old Grandma Goodson house, and go to New York. They first bought a bus, and like hippies of that time, they couldn't take a bus and paint it a normal way. They had to have psychedelic colors all over it, and it was by itself a monstrosity that would cause accidents as you were driving down the highway, because people would stare. And then he decided he was going to pose as a preacher and take this flock of Christian fanatics to New York. And I was worried about him. He had not a dime in his pocket, or at least no money. They had no extra food. The clothes were, I think they wore the same clothes over and over again. Their bedding was a meager, dirty old blankets and stuff like that, and mattresses, and they threw all this in a bus and drove back to New York, and I wondered whether he would survive in a big city like that.